Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Chicago Bears reporter Michael Dwojak here with the Northwest Herald Joe Aguilar as we are joining you guys Monday morning after the Bears' fourth straight win. They beat the New Orleans Saints 24-16 on Sunday in the Lakefront. Joe, it wasn't pretty by any means. It wasn't a Mona Lisa, but I mean, the Bears went old school on Sunday afternoon. They ran the ball, they forced turnovers, and they found a way to win a football game against the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, it was almost like the '85 Bears, man. It's funny because during the game when DeAndre Swift was already over 100 yards, Monongai was threatening to get there. They just kind of ran out of time and didn't need him to run the ball a lot more, Swift or anybody. I had to look up, like, when was the last time the Bears had two 100-yard rushers in one game? And my search brought me back to the '85 Bears with Walter and Matsui. So it didn't happen. Monongai finished with 81 yards. But regardless, it was Bears running the football, defense. We're still waiting for the quarterback to show consistency. We'll get to that later. But, hey, man, 4 wins in a row, and the Bears will take it.
Yeah, I think, that was obviously a big message for Ben after the game where it's good to win and you still have like stuff to work on, right? Like it's easier to teach guys when you're winning and that sort of stuff. So obviously there's a lot of stuff to break down. We'll break down, Sunday's game. If you're joining us on the live stream, thanks so much for those who have joined us. Appreciate it. If you guys want to give us a like, that's the best way to support us, help us grow our brand. We really appreciate it. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you check out our social medias. We'll usually post when we're going to be doing our live stream. We usually try to do it Monday morning and Friday morning for Sunday games. Obviously, the schedule changes a little bit, but we'll try to stay consistent with that. So, if you want to be part of the conversation, like Rick is joining us this morning, and he's giving Joe a lot of credit for choosing Jake Moody, and he'll obviously, I'm sure, will be one of our winners from this week. But yeah, if you want to be part of the conversation, want to join us, make sure you check out our social medias. We're on all our social medias, and then we can talk to you on YouTube. All right, Joe. Obviously, a big win for the Bears, fourth straight win. A lot of stuff went right, and a lot of stuff went wrong for it being such a wide margin game. So let's start with the positive. Obviously, it's a win. Joe, what is your first winner from Sunday's win?
It's got to be the running game, in particular, DeAndre Swift. I mean, wow, have they figured this out 2 games in a row now, where they've run the ball with authority? They've gotten some big plays, and just consistently they've been able to do it. Whether it was Swift or Monongai, Roschon Johnson got a carry and gained 11 yards yesterday. Him and his big guardian cap. I mean, and maybe there's some continuity finally with this offensive line. With Benedict, on the left side, and Darnell Wright healthy, and the inside we need, other than Drew Dahlman refusing to snap the football to Caleb Williams a couple times, they've looked good. And it's strange, Michael, because if I would have told you, 2 months ago, the Bears would be 4-2, you'd say, well, Caleb must be really making strides, and this passing game must be clicking on all cylinders here or hitting on all cylinders. But it really hasn't. But the running game, boy, if that can be a thing going forward, if that can be a consistent mark like they've shown the last 2 games, the passing game's going to come around. It might just take more time than – well, I'll speak for myself. Like, guys like me want to see it like now. It's just going to take some time. Although smarter guys like you have been saying all along, other guys, it's going to take time with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. But the running game yesterday, certainly Swift, I thought he looked fantastic all day. I don't know if he had a bad run, honestly. But 124 on the ground, that's back-to-back 100-yard games. Game ball to DeAndre Swift, unless Drew Dahlman's going to just keep it in his hands and not going to give anything, not going to give a football away to anybody. I'm just joking there. But DeAndre Swift, the running game, Monongai too, boy, he looked good. But, boy, it looked like you or me could have ran for a couple of yards against that Saints front, man. They didn't look good at all. But kudos to DeAndre Swift, who we've said he's a better running back than I think he was getting credit for earlier this season. But props to him and Monungai too, and just nice to see him get his first big league touchdown.
Yeah, it's good to see. I had in my takeaways. You were interested to see whether, was it just a fluke performance against the Commanders in bad conditions, or was this the real thing? And through 2 games, it seems to be the real thing. A couple weeks ago, we talked about how the Bears were like, oh, like we're a small thing away from having this click. And it didn't. I think that must have been the Raiders game, because it didn't end up clicking in that game either. And then we were like, well, how close is this? Like, is this really just a small thing? But it does seem like the ops, I feel like Ben and DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monunga, and I think Declan Doyle, the Bears OC, was also asked this, was anything changed during the bye week? And I think the answer has been consistently no. Everyone is just kind of doing what they need to be doing. Like the guys on the offensive line are actually blocking. And obviously, you have Theo Benedette in there at left tackle instead of Braxton Jones. I don't know if that's really making that huge of a difference, where you go from, barely rushing for 50 yards to 200 and, whatever it was, 220. But you're seeing the offensive line, the interior is getting stuff going. The wide receivers and tight ends have really bought in on the outside, and that's creating a lot of lanes. And you're seeing DeAndre Swift, I think he was pretty ticked off at the start of the year. Like, he wasn't getting the performances that he wanted. I think he believes, especially after last year, that he could be better. There was a whole offseason conversation about, you need to change running backs. Ben Johnson hates DeAndre Swift because they traded him after 1 year, all that sort of stuff, all the narratives throughout the offseason. They got signed one, then they got drafted one high. I think you'd be foolish to think that a running back doesn't hear that. Even if you're not on social media, you hear at least a little bit of it, right? Like, you hear a little bit about, whether it's on the radio, if you still listen to radio, or all that stuff. So I think he came out motivated, and he's doing exactly what you kind of hoped he could do. He's hitting the open lanes. He's getting into open space, and then he's making guys miss. He's doing a lot of nice moves, a lot of juke moves to, break a tackle here and that sort of stuff. So I agree with you, Joe. This running attack is really hitting right now. For Kyle Monungai to also pick up, what was it? It was 81 yards, his first touchdown as a running back. Them as a team averaging 5.5 yards. Eric Bieniemy, the running backs coach, talks about how he wants 4.5 yards on every run, and then anything else is gravy. Like, you're seeing it execute at this point. And I agree. Like, I think this has to be a really encouraging point, because if you get that running attack going, things will open up, in the passing game, because teams are going to have to defend the run.
Yeah, I want to see both of them working together. It's like we get the passing game going a little earlier in the season, like the Dallas game, and bits and parts in the other games before yesterday, and then the running game hadn't been there before the bye anyway. Now we got to get them both going, because I think there's still a lot more to be done by this offense. They scored 26 points, so 26, 25, 25 the last 3 weeks here. My goodness, not that I expect them to score 33 points in one quarter like the Broncos did yesterday. That was insane. Maybe one of the most insane games I can remember, that game with the Giants. But there's more here for the offense. And it's amazing because, like, you look at the receivers yesterday for the Bears and Caleb's numbers, we'll get to that. Not good. But when you can run the ball like that, I mean, again, I don't know if there was any negative plays, when they ran the ball. I mean, it was all positive yards and chunks of it. Again, not the 20, 30-yarder stuff, but like Bieniemy was just, telling you guys, get 4.5 a carry. You can win a lot of football games doing that.
Yeah, you definitely can. And, we'll get to the, what this means moving forward, but have to be encouraged at least to see back-to-back performances. Good for DeAndre, good for Kyle, good for Roschon to get in there, especially after last week. Ben was kind of non-committal toward, Roschon being in there. And then, obviously he got in there and made the most of it when he got his opportunity. All right, my first winner has to be the defense. I mean, four takeaways once again for the third time in 4 weeks. They forced at least 3 turnovers in the last 4 weeks. I had the lead in my story. Kevin Byard told us after the game that Al Harris, the team's passing game coordinator and defensive backs coach, said that you're going to get 4 takeaways again on Sunday. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? Like, obviously it's been really impressive to do it so far, but like, come on, we're not going to keep doing this. And, they did it again. And it has to be, I don't know if we can do a combo part of this, but the whole, my whole main story was how are they able to do this? And they were able to do it because you finally had a pass rush. Like, you really got after Spencer Rattler. You really affected him. And they did it different ways, right? You had Montez Sweat force a fumble. You had Tremaine Edmonds also get a sack. But then you got Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker involved, which is something that I think Bears fans have been looking for ever since those guys were together. Bears fans had to wait a little bit because of Kyler Gordon's hamstring injury at the start of the year. Then obviously on Monday night in his first game, in sloppy conditions, I think you kind of expected him to kind of get used to, back to the game shape and all sort of stuff. Like, you're not going to make a crazy performance in your first game back, but Sunday you saw what this Bears defense can be with Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. Yeah, I know a lot of Bears fans were like, man, if we had Jalen Johnson in there, like, that secondary would be like unstoppable. And it just is it's really been impressive for what this defense has been able to do, just continuously, practicing, Dennis Allen's mentality of studying up, being in the right spot and the right time, and making sure that we have bodies there. I mean, Nahshon Wright was right place, right time. I know Kevin Byard was kind of, a duck snort, and he, kind of just took it away. And then Tremaine Edmonds got it after TJ Edwards kind of deflected the ball off a pass. But, Montez Sweat just kept with the pressure and just popped that ball out. And then Javon Dexter was in the right place at the right time, right? Like, you are just seeing this defense really buy into Dennis Allen's defense. And I think that has to be really talked about a lot because, they haven't been able to play the man-to-man press coverage that they wanted, but Dennis Allen has adjusted. He's gotten guys involved. He's moved guys around the line, and you're seeing it, work in such a way that, Kevin Byard said after the game, like, this isn't normal. Like, you don't force 4 turnovers in 3 of the last 4 games. So, the defense, I mean, just for what they've been able to accomplish and the way that they've been accomplishing it so far, it wasn't perfect, but I do think that you really have to be encouraged about what this defense has been able to do up to this point. And now that they got the guys back and kind of getting them into, in their usual shape, I think you really have to be encouraged about what this defense can do moving forward.
100%. I mean, and who saw this coming after the week 2 game when they gave a 52 to Detroit, and it probably could have been more. I mean, that's how bad it was. But for them to get the turnovers again with 4 more, as you mentioned, I don't know how you keep this up. I mean, but even if you get 1 or 2, that's good a game, and they're doubling that. But it just shows what confidence can do, and coaching, for all the inconsistencies we've seen personnel-wise from guys, boy, the coaching, they've got it right. I mean, not only with Ben Johnson, but with Dennis Allen. You mentioned Eric Bieniemy. The other guys, the coaching staff here, they just look like a well-coached football team because it's not all there yet by any means. They're not dominating teams. They're not playoff talk. We'll table that for a while still, but coaching is making a difference.
All right, Joe, who is your second winner from Sunday's game?
Well, kind of to piggyback off what you're saying, I'll go with Dennis Allen. I mean, revenge game for him, the team he used to be the head coach for. They're figuring it out. We were pretty confident in him, going into the season. I think pretty much everyone thought it was a good hire. And then you saw the Detroit game. You're like, what the heck is going on here? I know they're banged up. No Jalen or no Kyler Gordon in that game. TJ got hurt, barely played that Detroit game. But to see what they've done here in the 4 games since then is pretty remarkable. Just like they're buying in, he's finding ways. I was so glad to finally see the blitzing coming from the secondary where it worked this time. But getting Kyler back, as you mentioned, now that he's looked like he's 100% or close to it, but to see him, like I expect to see more of that. I think he's a guy who can get 5 or 6 sacks a year if he plays all 17. That's not going to happen this year. But, because he's got that ability. And then Jaquan Brisker, we've seen that in the past from him, the ability to get to the quarterback on blitzing. And he did a nice job. It's too bad he had that pass interference on what was a 3rd and 28 there that kind of gave the Saints a window. And then, Nashawn Wright, like 2 plays later, gets the interception. But finally glad to see that. And I think we'll see more of that going forward from this defense. But Dennis Allen, right? Hats off, man. He got the game ball from Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson said he has more to give, but they only had one apparently after the game. So he gave it to Dennis Allen. And certainly, I mean, the defense won the game. They set the tone first series of the game with Montez Sweat with that strip sack. And, they turned that into 3 points from my guy, Jake Moody. And, they never trailed. And so the defense, and that starts with Dennis Allen.
Yeah, heading into the week, Dennis really, downplayed the whole thing. He talked about, it's just another game. Obviously, he spent the majority of his career there. He wasn't, he wasn't going to make this about himself and his, play against New Orleans. But talking to players after the game, especially Kevin Byard, he's a veteran. He's been around the league for a while now. And he said, like, listen, Dennis didn't make it about this game, but we knew, like, the players knew what this was for him. Like, he didn't have to say anything. Like, the players knew what it meant for him to be playing against a team that, didn't want him anymore. Like he said in his, it was funny. I thought Dennis actually had a pretty positive spin on being fired last year when he was talking to the team about being like, it wasn't part of the plan, God's plan. And, when another team doesn't want you, that's okay. And, he's happy to be here and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, Dennis Allen has to be a big winner, not only for this game, but just, I don't think anyone was by any means doubting Dennis after 2 games with, your major playmakers hurt. But I think they were probably like, okay, like, what is this going to look like? Like, the secondary is getting bullied. You're not creating a pass rush. Through 2 games, you're just kind of like, oh boy, like this could get pretty ugly. But I think you really have seen the defensive players, not that they weren't bought in at the start of training camp or during OTAs, but I think it's one of those situations where once you start to see it really work, it really kind of gets you going, right? And I think they saw it really work against Dallas when they were able to pick off Dak Prescott in the 4th quarter 3 straight times. And then from there, you just kind of continuously saw them put up big performances. So, you have to be really happy for Dennis, what he was able to do and how he was able to do it. So, I think that's a really good winner. And I'm sure he's really happy, but I'm sure he'll also tell you he's on to Baltimore at this point. He doesn't want to talk about the Saints, but maybe he'll want to talk about it. We'll see. All right, Joe. My second winner is going to be the offensive line. Obviously, we talked about how well they were performing to create a lot of different lanes for the running attack, but they also did a good job of protecting Caleb. Caleb was only sacked once for 8 yards in that game. I think that came on 3rd down. This will probably get into our losers a little bit later. Caleb escaped a lot of pressure sometimes. He was doing a lot of scrambling. I know that there was the Drew Dahlman situations with the snaps a little bit. But I think for the most part, this is your offensive line for the rest of the season, I think. I think you were really encouraged about what you're seeing from the interior. The new guys are really gelling with each other. Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman, and Joe Thuney. Obviously, I know Drew Dahlman, he took responsibility for some of the bad snaps and the inconsistencies on the cadence. But Darnell Wright has played really well since coming back from injury. And Theo Benedict, I think, one of the big things from last week when we were talking about when Ben Johnson was asked about those guys, Ben said that he didn't notice them. And that's like you have talked about in the past, Joe. If you don't notice or even say an offensive lineman's name for the most part, it kind of stinks because they don't get the recognition. But that also means that they're probably doing a really good job because you're not recognizing them, right? They're not giving up anything. And I think there was a play or two where Theo Benedict, I think maybe on the first series, gave up a pass rush. And, I think Chase Young was able to get around him and, disrupt the pass. And I mean, that's just a veteran going against a second-year player making his second start at left tackle. That's just going to happen. But I think for the most part, you have to be really encouraged about what this offensive line has done in the last 2 games. And I think that this is your offensive line moving forward.
I agree. And, the big, you hear this with teams talked about a lot with offensive line consistency or lack of it, and it's continuity. You got to have the same 5 guys in there for most weeks. I mean, you're going to have injuries. The Bears seem to have a lot of them over the years on the O-line, but if you can just keep these guys healthy, that continuity, getting used to playing with each other. You got some veteran guys there. We've talked about Tooney and Jonah Jackson, but that helps if they can get this. I mean, I don't want to hear 85 false start again anymore with Komet. I mean, I'm getting tired of that. I've been tired of that. But the other guys on the O-line have been really good. And, most offensive, I think all offensive linemen, not that I ever was one, will tell you they'd rather run block than pass block. And they are showing that, like, they're getting into a groove here. I mean, and look, I mean, I know they're professionals, but confidence still matters. And they're playing with a lot of confidence, not 2 games in a row. And let's keep doing it. And, the passing game will come. It will come. But for now, keep doing that. And even when the passing game does come, you're still going to need to, you're not going to need DeAndre Swift to rush for 100 yards every game, but you're going to need to be able to run the ball and in crucial situations in particular. So this is good. The O-line deserves credit. The protection was really good yesterday. Caleb had a lot of time to throw. And we'll get to him, and we keep teasing it. We'll get to him in a little bit here. But the protection was there. Again, 1 sack. And even then, I mean, I think on that sack, Michael, I mean, I think I ran to the fridge, made myself a snack. When I came back, he was still in the pocket. He still had time to throw. I mean, he had all day, and then he finally went down. But there was some of that going on. But the O-line, look, props to all 5 of those guys. And
yeah, you have to be really encouraged about what you're seeing. And, we can get into the long-term debate about, is Theo your permanent answer at left tackle, or is he good enough for this year? It's obviously too early to judge him on that just based on 2 games. But you have to be encouraged by what you're seeing about this from this offensive line up to this point and what it's done for your running attack and what the opportunity it has created for Caleb moving forward. All right, Joe, who is your final winner from Sunday's win?
You'll laugh, but I'm going to go with Jake Moody. I mean, again,
I expect you to. I mean, you chose him as your most valuable Bear, and you won that thing. I mean, you have to say it. 4 for 4 yesterday, right?
They weren't, no 60-yarders or anything like that. But again, the weather turned out. I had a feeling this would happen. We talked about, it's going to be bad weather. Look out, 40-mile-per-hour gusts, and it's going to be a monsoon and rain. And it was okay, wasn't it, yesterday at Soldier Field?
Yeah, I think it maybe was drizzling by the time, but heading into it, it was just a constant downpour for 4 hours before the game.
Yeah. Amazing how that just noon and here comes the sun and let's play football. But no, Jake was good again. And we're not talking about, gosh, you see, hey, I don't want to go back again, but I will to that Giants Broncos game. But my goodness, the Giants kicker missed 2 PATs and they were huge. But so Jake is just doing his job, right? Like when we're not talking about the kicker, that's a good thing. And Jake is just coming here in 2 weeks. And again, he might be on the street in 2 weeks. Whenever Cairo gets healthy, maybe the Giants will want to snag Jake Moody. Because I'm assuming, it's still Cairo's job, I assume, once he's good enough to kick again. But in the meantime, Jake just steady. And again, with that offense, not being able to put the ball in the end zone via the pass, you need the kicker to come in, and whether it's a 25-yarder or it's a 45-yarder, to get in there and get points. And I tell you, I had as one of my takeaways, three things that mattered yesterday in the game was after that, if the Saints, they score at the end of the half, they score in their first possession of the third quarter, and all of a sudden you're like, don't tell me the Bears are going to blow this lead here. And the Bears come down, put together a nice drive. The 4th and 1 play, or 4th and goal from the 1, the double clutch by Dahlman, and all of a sudden that bails them out. And then they come in, and I know it's a chip shot. It's less than an extra point, basically, the field goal. But those 3 points there, my point being, you got to, even if it's just the 3 points, you got to get it there, because if they don't get that, because Caleb fumbled that snap because of the Dahlman, double clutch or whatever, all of a sudden, that could be a momentum changer. Where the Saints like, hey man, we got the ball now, we can march 99 yards again, because that's what they did at the end of the first half. So just getting points there, but Jake just being consistent. I don't care if it's 4 30-yard field goals in the game, make all of them. And so props to him for a guy who, again, was out of a job a month ago, basically, after the Niners cut him. And he stashed on the practice squad by the Bears. And that turned out to be, I don't know if it was serendipitous or what, man, but that was a good move to have him ready. and he's showing why he was actually a kicker who got drafted, because not many of them get drafted, as we know. But props to Jake Moody.
Yeah, really cool opportunity for him. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to catch up with him after the game. How difficult the circumstances were, because it was windy, but it wasn't too windy. Like if you looked at the field and the field goal the flags. But yeah, I mean, you really have to give him a lot of credit for stepping in the way he has. Last week the Bears have said that Cairo is their starter. I don't know. I don't know if you can take the job away from Cairo just because Jake Moody's made a bunch of field goals. There've been very important field goals, not to discredit that or anything, but it still feels like it's going to be Cairo's job when he gets back and he's healthy. But you have to figure that for Jake, he's created a spot for himself on an NFL roster, whether that's with the Bears or listen, maybe someone is just going to swipe him from the practice squad because he's going to go back on the practice squad this week, and then they might have to elevate him if Cairo is still not going. I'm not sure exactly how that works, where, if Cairo gets injured, whether that means that the Bears would have to try to keep him, Jake Moody, because obviously if the team swipes him from the practice squad this week, they wouldn't have a kicker. But yeah, I would agree. Jake Moody is a big guy that has really made his presence known over the past 2 weeks. All right, I'm going to keep my last winner short and sweet. It's one that I've used the last couple of weeks, but it keeps coming up. This coaching staff is just winning. And I think it's winning over a lot of fans. I think it's winning, not that he didn't win me over or anything like that, but this is a game that the Bears lose again in the past. This is a game that I have no doubt that they lose. The defense crumbles. They don't, they can't get the running attack going. It just felt like a game when the Saints were scoring those 2 touchdowns at the end of the first half and the start of the second half. They double dipped and they took advantage of both opportunities. And I think it was 20-14. It was kind of like, all right, what are the Bears going to do in this scenario? And you just saw that the coaching prevailed them, right? Like they were able to move the ball down. Yeah, you would have wanted more touchdowns. We'll get there. But I do think that this coaching staff is just showing you like this team has bought into everything that they're selling. They're putting them in good positions to win. It's not perfect by any means, and we're about to get all to the negatives about yesterday's win. But again, this coaching staff, there's no doubt in my mind that this feels like a game that they barely win by a point, or they win last season if this coaching staff isn't in place.
100%. I mean, look, I think of all the major sports, this is the sport where coaching matters the most. I've maintained even the last, several years here, whether it be Eberflus or John Fox or Mark Trestman. I always feel like I can't believe the Bears have the worst roster in the National Football League, or one of the 5 top, worst rosters in the league. I thought coaching matters so much. We see good teams. And look, it's not like all 50 guys on the Chiefs are really good at football, right? I mean, I know they have the best quarterback in the game, but good coaching matters. And again, I've said this many times before, we're not seeing like the botched time clock at the end of a half, at the end of a game. We're seeing guys believing. We're seeing guys who, Nashawn Wright making plays. I mean, this guy can barely make an NFL roster the last 3 years, and he's now made 2 big plays. That pick yesterday was huge. We know about the pick 6 week 1. So you're getting guys, and it's guys all over the board who are making contributions. You don't have to have the monster stats for the day and be a fantasy, steal for the week, but you've got to be able to make contributions, and they're getting that across the board. I think if you look down, at the depth chart, like saying, yeah, that guy made a play yesterday. That guy made a play. Yep, he made a tackle. Yep, he had a big catch. So that's coaching to me, and they deserve 100% credit here.
All right, Joe. It was funny yesterday. I was coming up with my takeaways, from a 26-14 win, and I felt like I had more negative stuff than I did have positive for a win, which is kind of funny. And but I think that kind of shows you the spot where this team is at this point, where they're finding ways to win games that they probably didn't in the past, and they're not doing it at 100%, which has to, if you're a Bears fan, and Ben Johnson and Caleb talked about this after the game. You have to be encouraged that you're winning games when you're not even playing close to 100% perfect game by any means. So, Joe, what was one of your first losers from Sunday?
Well, Caleb, I mean, horrible first quarter. I mean, that was I initially wrote, he needed a mulligan. Well, he needed a mulligan for the whole game. I just thought it never got really better. Now, the good thing is he's not turning the ball over. I mean, he had the one interception, but that's his second this year, I think. Spencer Rattler, I mean, he turned the ball over. I mean, that's the difference. So, but Caleb was, man, Michael, I know we want him to be the next thing. We want him to be the best quarterback in the history of the franchise, and we want it to happen now. And I have to remind myself too, because I'm impatient. I mean, I want it to happen now. I want to see it now. And yesterday, that was a dud by him. But here they win by 12 points still. They win by 12 points, and the quarterback was, I'm just going to say he was bad. And we're still getting nothing out of this draft class. That's another story too. But Caleb off holding the ball. I thought on some of those plays, he just take off and get 10 or 12 yards like he's capable of doing. And that keeps drives going. But he just looked like he was thinking too much. And I keep thinking, again, I'm not a coach. I'm not an analyst. But sometimes it seems like when he's just like not thinking, because, I'm one of those guys too. Like, I think too much, I really start hurting myself. Just get in a rhythm and go. Like we see, like when they're in like a desperation mode, like in the fourth quarter of games, like he's got that, man. It's like go, and he's in a rhythm and he's throwing BBs and he's got. And yesterday, like he was just like, I just saw like a bunch of like numbers going like a little bubble over his head, like like a computer. Like stop, just hit the guy, make it easy, and channel your little inner Tyson Bagent just a little bit. And get the ball out and go. But I mean, his numbers yesterday, 15 to 26, 172. And like you, I'm thinking, Joe, stop complaining. They won a football game by 12 points. But that was that his worst game of the year? The Vikings, the second half, that was bad, but he was okay in the first half. But I didn't think he had a good quarter yesterday.
Yeah, I led my takeaways with, talking about Caleb saying that, Ben Johnson for the offseason said, the growth isn't going to be linear. Like that's right. Just what it's going to be. It's not going to be every single week Caleb is getting better. There are going to be ups and there are going to be downs. And yesterday was a down. Yesterday just wasn't, I don't know what it was. Rick brings up the point, him being inaccurate on the move of Zaz. He did so good in that last year. Even he said that after yesterday, like, I'm usually good on the move, and he missed a bunch of guys on the move. I don't know. It just felt like one of those days where it's just it wasn't clicking. Sometimes that happens in the NFL. That happens to a lot of great players. I think the most encouraging part of not to put a positive spin on it if I don't need to, but you won a game with your quarterback having not his best game, right? Like you found a way to win, not in spite of him, but like he just didn't have a good game. The decision making wasn't great. There are a lot of scrambles sometimes where he just kept the play alive, and I felt like he should have just went out of bounds. He could have picked up a yard or two instead of just like running around and risking injury and and throwing the ball around. Like I really felt like he reverted to his rookie season yesterday, which that's going to happen sometimes when you're just like when you're trying to develop and you're trying to get out of your bad habits. It doesn't mean that your bad habits go away all of a sudden and, you just move on. So, I agree with you. I think Caleb could have had a better performance yesterday. It wasn't working. He didn't have a touchdown pass. The QBR was bad. What was the QBR? It was 61.7. It was 61.7. It is kind of crazy that Spencer Rattler, who looked terrible yesterday at times, right, ended up with a higher, QBR than Caleb did. But yeah, I agree with you. It just wasn't a good day for him yesterday. It wasn't clicking for him. He admitted it. He took full ownership after the game. I don't think he was even asked about it. He pretty much said, like, I think the question was about the running attack or something like that. And he brought up, like, we did all this despite me having a bad game. No one asked him if he had a bad game. No one said anything. And he just brought it up himself. And he said, I had a bad game. Like, this wasn't good. And I think you have to be encouraged by that, right? Like now he said all the right stuff and he did all the right, he did all that stuff after the game. And I think you have to be, he said it's looking at the tape, working on the footwork, working on his vision, all the stuff that we've kind of heard about earlier this year. But yeah, I do think that progress isn't linear sometimes, and you saw that yesterday.
Yeah, people keep pointing to Jared Goff's first season under Ben Johnson was not bad. It was just kind of mediocre. So maybe that'll be the case with Caleb, but I don't know. You're right. I feel guilty, like complaining about the quarterback.
Well, I don't think you should. It wasn't a perfect game by like I said earlier. Like I had more negative stuff to say about this game than I did positive stuff.
Yeah. So that's good. Again, they won, and it'll get better. I mean, he's not going to be Mahomes, next week against the Ravens necessarily, but yeah, there are good games ahead, but you can't, the defense isn't going to keep getting 3 or 4 turnovers every game either. So
No.
at some point that's going to end, and DeAndre Swift's not going to run for 100 yards every game, but we'll take 2 in a row. So let's see the quarterback, because, just like Mitch before and Justin Fields, like the city wants to fall in love with the quarterback and just be gaga over the quarterback for a long time. But like you see, Mitch, the first round pick, second overall, Justin, top, 10th pick, whatever. And then here comes the prize. And the first pick from 2024, Spencer Rattler was the 150th pick. And he was bad, but I mean, and Olave is great, man. We've talked about it. Everyone knows Chris Olave is a great receiver, but to have these weapons with DJ and Colston Loveland, hey, 3 catches yesterday. More, please. Luther Burden, more, please. Roma Dunze, more, please. Well, the quarterback, man, that's on you. Come on.
All right, I'm going to
ask about Caleb.
All right, my first loser was. I think the Bears could have won by more points. Like they won by 12. They should have won by more. And that's because of inefficient play again. They converted 3 of their 12, third downs on Sunday for 25% success rate. They matched their second lowest that they had at 25% against when they were 3 of 12 against the Vikings. The Bears committed 10 penalties for 92 yards. Again, one of the penalties was I can't remember whether it was Cole Kmet or someone else, or I think Colston got called for another offensive PI on a nice pass to DeAndre Swift that would have picked up a first down. It's not good. Like you're not going to beat Baltimore going 3 for 12 on third down. You're not going to beat Philadelphia committing 10 penalties for 82 yards. Like that's just sloppy play. And I think that sloppy play will let you beat the Saints, and they'll let you win against maybe teams that maybe aren't as good as those top teams. But at 4-2 right now, you gotta set your sights on making the playoffs and on really focusing on taking advantage of this hot start and building off of with what you have in these next 3 games. And Baltimore, Cincinnati, and the Giants, like they're not going to be cakewalks. Baltimore, especially with Lamar Jackson back, is not going to be any cakewalk. But you can't play inefficiently like this, and that's part of Caleb. That's mistakes by other guys. The false starts kind of came back. It felt like a reversion a little bit yesterday, but you're not going to win games like this playing against good teams with inefficient play like that. So that really needs to get fixed up quickly.
Yeah. No, that would be my other negative, I guess. From the penalties. I mean, you stole my thunder there. I mean, the 10 from 92 yards. I mean, come on. Now, I will say the PI on Colston Loveland, that may have been one of the worst calls I've seen. I don't want to sound like the crazy basketball mom in the stands again. I don't mean to do that, but boy, the officiating, that was one of the worst calls I've seen in a long time. The 2 Saints receivers ran into each other. Or the defensive backs, they ran into each other. I guess that's not reviewable.
No.
Wow. And Colston Loveland, the kid was having a game. He had 3 catches, Michael. I mean, break out the kegs. I mean, for Colston, but that was a horrible call. But you can't keep doing this. And look, I mean, it's always a fine line. It's football, for crying out loud. You got to be aggressive. You got to hit people. And sometimes you just get, a little too much. The call on Kyler Gordon, where they said he was head to head, I've seen several replays like that. I think I need to see it on a 70-inch screen and super slow-mo. I don't think even the helmet even hit the receiver's helmet. Another
No, but
bad call.
that one
That
is
was
a
a big
little
one.
that one is a little tough because I get why the official like his shoulder did hit his head, so I get like
Gosh.
anything that hits the head, they're just going to call a flag on, and that is
Right.
just
So I guess you got to be aware of it, but it's
I think
football and you're used to hitting. I mean, it
sure,
can't be
yeah,
easy for these guys.
yeah, for sure.
But even if you take away those 2, 8's still too many penalties.
No,
So,
yeah,
like you said, you're not going to get away with this when you're not getting the turnovers. Also, the exchanges with Caleb and Drew Dahlman, whatever those are. I mean, to me, those are penalties because those are killers. I mean, you're losing. Those are unforced errors, right? Those are not forced turnovers or forced losses of several yards. Those are just on you, and that's sloppy. And I know no game will ever be perfect by anybody, any player, any team, but that stuff really needs to stop. I mean, this is not preseason. This is not second game of the year. We're 6 games in already. Stop it.
All right, Joe, who's your second loser from Sunday afternoon?
Well, I mean, the discipline. I guess I kind of spilled it there, but just the discipline. And I know that always comes back on the coaches. And I don't know. Again, I said I was done ranting on Caleb. I don't know if that's Caleb with the false starts, the cadence, all that stuff. But whatever that is, you can't have it. I mean, you're better off just whipping one into the stands from the pocket and saying, "We'll eat it, live to get another down out of it and make it 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10, whatever." But you can't have the negative plays because, again, it's really a testament to the whole football team that they're winning ugly, so to speak. Here, these last 3 weeks here have been that. But look, you look around the league every week, and few teams are winning pretty. Few teams are putting together masterpieces over 4 quarters. So it is the NFL, right? But bottom line is, you look up today, you look at the standings. They're 4-2. They're not in last place, Eureka, in the NFC North. So you'll take it.
All right, Joe, my second loser, and I don't mean to. I'm not going to say that I'm not calling the defense a loser or anything like that by any means, but I do think that I do think, and this is going to be a concern for me heading into Baltimore, is when the defense isn't creating 4 turnovers in a game. I mean, I think Spencer Rattler showed you that defenses can take advantage of that. I mean, Rattler threw for 233 yards. He averaged 7 yards an attempt. If it wasn't for those 3 interceptions, and I know if ands and buts and all that kind of stuff, we can't play that game. But I think at points still in these last 4 games when the defense has been playing incredibly well, when the sack doesn't land, I think there are sometimes, disruptions in coverage. Like you saw that against the Commanders last week when they were able to take that 12-point lead, right? When they picked up, I forget what it was, like a 50-yard pass Jaden Daniels had to Chris Moore. I think that needs to get cleaned up. And I don't know whether that's miscommunication. I don't know whether that's just, maybe, other offensive guys are also trying to make plays out there. It's not just like the defense is bad by any means, but I do think that is going to be something I'm going to be looking at heading into this matchup against Baltimore, where the secondary does create turnovers, but it could get picked on a little bit here for big plays. And I think you saw that on those 2 drives that that Spencer Rattler had at the end and the beginning of the halves, where he moved the ball down pretty easily in no time. Like I was like, I just went to go throw out a plate and go to the bathroom real quick at the start of the second half. And all of a sudden the Saints were already at the Bears 20. And I was like, what happened? Like I was gone for like 2 minutes. So for how great the defense has been playing over the past 4 games, I do think that might be a little bit of a weakness that needs to be shored up here, especially heading into Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, look, and again, we don't want to keep lamenting, like, Jalen Johnson is not walking through that door anytime soon here. So, look, I mean, they miss him. He's their best offensive player. But like Nahshon Wright, he's Nahshon Wright. The fact that he's made 2 big plays and he's basically on pace for almost at the 3rd way through the season, he's like on pace for 6 interceptions. If you got that on a Nahshon Wright, I mean, he's a backup basically. They had another kid made a good tackle yesterday. I didn't even know he was on the team. Jackson, another DB. Who am I thinking? Early in the game, he had a pass breakup. I think I'm like, who's he? There's some guys like they're just like taping and duct taping and little hockey tape here and a little tack here to keep it all together sometimes with the injuries. And I know every team goes through it. But I will say this, having TJ Edwards back makes a difference. TJ is not a Pro Bowl player, but he's that next level. He's just super reliable, good tackler. He had the tip on the interception by Tremaine Edwards late in the game there in the fourth quarter. So TJ makes a difference. But, yeah, and you're still like, no one on the front line is playing at even a remotely Pro Bowl level, And good to see Montez Sweat make, he's been a little better the last 2 weeks, as we mentioned. But, you're not getting much from really anybody else. And yet here you go. You had a dominating defensive effort other than the end of the first half, the start of the second half there. But that's got to get cleaned up. But I can't believe they're playing this well, especially after what we saw in Detroit in week 2 after that disaster. So, but they're not perfect by any means.
All right, Joe, who's your final loser from yesterday?
Final loser. I think I've already had enough, haven't I? Final loser. Well, I'm going to say just Drew Dahlman in general, because that stuff can't. I don't know what's going on there. The first one in the first quarter, I'm trying to think now, that was just a where the exchange was bad. Then the double clutch that saved him the game potentially in the third quarter there on the goal line, where it would have come up empty on fourth and goal from the 1, and they got the field goal, thank goodness. But Drew, come on, man. I'll say this, getting back to the false starts, because we could say, hey, it's on Caleb, the cadence, and that. But generally on that, wouldn't you see multiple guys jumping? Like, Caleb, what are you doing? I mean, you fooled 4 of us. It's typically just one guy. From what I'm recalling here, when I see the false start penalties, it's not like multiple guys on the Bears moving. It's one guy, and they haven't been it hasn't been all Cole Kmet or anybody else or Theo Benedict or whoever. So I don't know there, but Drew Dahlman. That again, those are they're not turnovers, but these negative plays. The false starts that lead to a fumble or they snap it and it's all discombobulated. That's got to be that in particular has got to be cleaned up.
Yeah, and he took ownership after the game, but last week it didn't. Last week you can make the excuse that it was the weather. Like obviously the ball was slippery, but it's been something that we've noticed during the first 6 weeks. Like I get it. The first couple of weeks you get a new guy. You guys are still trying to build a rapport, but by week 6 you would like it to be more consistent. So yeah, I agree. That needs to get fixed up because like we've been lamenting, like these mistakes, you can't make these mistakes to get good against good teams. Like good teams make you pay for bad mistakes. And you're lucky that you're able to kind of get away with that one. My final loser is going to be, I agree with you. I think at this point earlier, the rookie class, well, Kyle Monangai got involved and I thought that was good. Colston tried to get involved. Luther didn't really get involved. But my thing is going to be, the Bears need to take advantage of turnovers more. They scored 10 points off of the 4 turnovers that they had yesterday. And it's been something that they've struggled with. I had in my takeaways, they've scored 4 touchdowns off of turnovers that they had in the past in this season. 1 was returned for a touchdown. That was the Nahshon Wright interception. The Bears knocked in 5 field goals off takeaways, and then they have failed to score off of 4 more opportunities. One of those was a late game situation where you're just going to kneel the ball down and close out the game. But Ben Johnson talked about this, like the defense is putting the offense in good spots to score touchdowns, and the offense isn't doing it so far. Like, yeah, they got 1 yesterday, but you're not going to get 4 turnovers every single game. You need to take advantage of when your defense does give you a turnover, in whether it's, Nahshon Wright returned it into, at 38 yards. Like, you need to take advantage of those opportunities. And they didn't do it at a consistent level yesterday, and they haven't been doing it at a consistent level during this winning streak at all.
Yep. No, that's a great one. I mean, because you don't want to rely on the kicker. I mean, we shouldn't have to be talking about the importance of Jake Moody going perfect on field goals yesterday
Right.
or kicking the game winner the week before, or Cairo Santos bailing out the offense against the Raiders when they stunk it up with great field position. You don't want, and I know it's part of the game, but if you don't want the kicker to decide the game, take advantage of those opportunities. But when they're getting the ball, inside the 50, or inside the 40 or inside the 30, like a couple of times they've had last few weeks here, that's got to be six. You got to come away with 6 points there, and hopefully the PAT goes through as well. So that's a big one, because that's you're lucky that doesn't come back to bite you. Now they won 4 in a row here, and they've had too many of these situations where, again, man, you're not going to get the 4 turnovers. How many times we said it during the podcast alone? You're not going to get the 3 or 4 turnovers every single game where you're in prime field position. But when you get them, you better take advantage of them. And that's, again, here I go picking on Caleb. That comes down to your QB and the offense getting it right. But they got to get in the end zone, and they haven't been doing it enough consistently. I 100% agree with you there.
All right, we've got to wrap up here. I'm going to hit on some fan comments. Robert chiming in from across the pond. Good to hear from you, Robert. This win is exactly what we needed to somehow get wins under a belt, buying us time to get the offense to click. And I think that's a big point where, Caleb talked about, the offense needs to, the defense is carrying the load right now. There's going to be a time when the offense is going to need to carry the load for the defense throughout the year. That's just going to happen. A 17-game win season. You're not going to keep this defensive rate throughout the year. So the offense needs to click on that. When will Dom Rob flashes bring us belief that he's actually a decent player, or are they just flashes? Joe, I don't know how you feel about Dominique Robinson. I feel like he does well for you. I think he gets in there. Makes the most of his opportunities. And I think you have to be really encouraged by what he's developed as a piece. So he's a depth piece who's going to be able to get a couple snaps in the game and make the most of it and give, Montez Sweat, Dio Dingbo, those guys breathers.
Yeah, no, Dominic Robinson, I barely knew he was on the roster last year. I didn't know if he was still on the team coming into camp, but he's made some plays. He had the nice, it wasn't a sack, but it was a tackle for loss on Rattler. I thought it was a big play where he had him one-on-one, and Rattler's a pretty good athlete, and he couldn't escape the grasp of Dominique Robinson. So I thought for the little times he's played, he's made a couple other plays this year, and I think he's shown he can play in the league, because going into this year, well, we knew he didn't have a roster spot guaranteed. We thought he might be one of the last cuts. I thought anyway, but I don't think he can ever be a guy in the league. But he made a play yesterday, and he's made a couple more this season as well.
CJ chiming in, I'm at a place where the draft class doesn't matter. Coaching is showing that this team wasn't as bad as their record was. When you have 3 top, 2 round guys, I feel like you would like to see a little bit more, but I agree. I think you're giving them a little bit time to develop a little bit here. I think that's a big point of emphasis. CJ also saying this year is win with Caleb. Hopefully we get to cause of moving forward. Rick chiming in, Komet is having a bad year. Enough of him already.
I agree.
Rick also chiming in before Stevenson update. Tyreek Stevenson left the game with the shoulder injury. He was doubtful to return. I didn't see him in the locker room after the game. I'm sure Ben will give us an update. He's set to meet with us up at House Hall at 3 p.m. We'll get more of an update from him, because Tyreek was making a lot of plays, a lot of pass disruptions up there. So you need him to be out there, especially if Jalen is. Well, we don't have a Jalen update. I assume that if he does come back, it wouldn't be until December at the earliest. That's just my gut feeling. But you need Tyreek Stevenson out there. And we're going to end on Robert's question. Any trades coming before the deadline? What are our weaknesses? Corner trade deadline is on November 4th. So that'll be 2 weeks from today. Joe, I don't know how you feel about the trade deadline, where I feel like my philosophy is kind of, if you're a team that is going to win a Super Bowl or contend for a Super Bowl, I think you take advantage of the trade deadline. And sometimes things happen where, you kind of get like a Montez Sweat situation where a team's about to blow it up and maybe you're willing to trade something for a guy that you're willing to sign moving forward. I haven't looked at too much at the 0-6 and 1-5 teams so far to see who you could potentially pick up that would fit that category. But I'm kind of the mindset where the Bears are kind of in they're not Super Bowl contenders this year. At least at this point, even at a 4-2 start, based on what you've seen in the last 3 games, I don't think that they are a Super Bowl contender. But so I don't know if it's worth giving up draft capital unless it is like a 6th round pick or a 7th round pick. But even those have been shown to be Ryan Poles' wheelhouse. Like he really hits on those. So maybe you don't want to trade those away. But I don't know if I'm a guy who's going to be trading away draft picks when you're not contending for a Super Bowl, for whether it's a rental or even a guy for the next 2 years.
It depends on who the player is, right? And what you're giving up. And like, to me, if they would have had, like, let's say they could have had Micah Parsons before the season when they.
Well, that's a very different conversation.
But would you be willing to give up?
Yeah, sure. Of course.
I would say yes, because Micah, you saw yesterday again, he's a difference maker. Trey Hendrickson, what's going to be the price? Because he's a difference maker. Now, Trey's older. I mean, Trey, I think is 31, 32. He's right. So would he cost you a 1st rounder? I wouldn't do that. But, and
he probably wants money too.
I know. But you still got your rookie, your quarterback on his rookie contract. So this is the time for the Bears to pour money into it. I don't know. I mean, you'd be paying a lot of money to defensive ends here, but I look. Ryan Poles hasn't proven doesn't know really how to draft that well anyway. So if you're giving up a 2nd rounder, I mean, look at these 2nd rounders I've gotten this year, and we can go down that. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again with the draft picks by Ryan Poles, but I think if it's a different, like Trey Hendrickson immediately makes this defense better. You're not going to have to rely, because that immediately improves the pass rush. If you can snag him for, I don't know, a 2nd rounder and a 4th, again, I don't know what the price, and you got to pay him, but I would do it. I would do it. Could they win? I mean, you got to start thinking I agree. They're not a Super Bowl contending team this year, but you want to start knocking off the Lions and the Packers, because we still got 3 games with those teams left. This is a difference maker. All of a sudden, Trey Hendrickson, we'll match your Micah Parsons and Aiden Hutchinson's with a Trey Hendrickson, because Montez Sweat is just not going to be that guy. Hopefully he gets to 8 or 9 sacks on the year, but he's not Trey Hendrickson. He's not Micah. He's not Aiden Hutchinson. He's not the Burns kid. Brian Burns in New York is having a great year. So I don't know. I feel a little differently, Michael, but again, it always depends. Like any player, any league, baseball, hockey, basketball, whatever. What's the price and how much we got to pay? But certain guys would intrigue me, but I don't think they need to go find a running back or find another cornerback they can get on the cheap. But if it's a game changer, I think you got to consider, because they're not a contender, but they can be on the way. And I think if you got Trey Hendrickson, you could still get him for, I don't think he's got 1 more year left in him. I think he's still got at least 2 or 3 more productive seasons left in him.
Yeah, I would just be a chance. Great. You're not trading for him without giving him a new contract, and he probably wants a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if what is he, 31, 32? Not that you can't be a high performer at 31 or 32, but you've invested so much money already on this defensive line, and you've gotten these type of performances. I don't know if adding more money to an older guy in this league. I don't know. If I'm Ryan Poles, I'd be a little bit itchy and scratchy about it. And I would try to develop Austin Booker and Shamar Turner, and maybe Shamar becomes more of that edge rusher that you can you saw him perform well in that role a little bit. He was able to kind of get after guys, but I think. Listen, do you add a secondary depth piece? Maybe. I mean, I just don't. I think you have the secondary is there, right? Like, I think you've been able to play pretty well with what you have, right? Like, it hasn't been a healthy group, but Yeah, the trade deadline will be in 2 weeks from tomorrow. We'll obviously talk a bit more about it probably in next week when we're getting closer to it. But that's definitely something to keep an eye on as we head into the final 2 weeks before that. All right, that's everything we've got for this week. We had a long podcast, but it was a good one. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the YouTube live stream. Appreciate everybody's comments. If you like what you heard, make sure you hit the click the like button. That really helps us grow and helps other Bears fans find us. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you check out when we post on our social medias. I'm at Dwojak94 and Joe's at Joe Aguilar 64. We will be back with you guys on Friday morning as we preview the Bears at the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson expected to get back into that one, so it should be a really big test for the Bears. But until then, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and we will talk to you folks down the road.